kind of habits do you have? Now, when I ask that question, I'm sure that many of you can think about a bunch of bad habits and you can rattle them off. And then you can think, okay, well, if I have a habit, you might feel guilty because now you're thinking about bad habits, and that bad habit turns into guilt, and that guilt can turn into trapped emotion, and that trapped emotion can now become dis-ease. But what if I told you that there's a way that you can stop those bad habits and maybe incorporate some great habits that can become rituals in your life? Well, today we get to meet Dr. Monisha Bhanote. And the first time I met her was at the Appleseed conference, Best Answer for Cancer conference, and I was mesmerized by what she had to say. Now, Dr. Bhanote is a quintuple board certified doctor. She's an integrative doctor, and I am so excited that we get to learn from her. So make sure you get your paper and pencil because we're going to take lots of notes and learn together.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lily McDermott, and I am the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show, Classroom. If this is the first time you've come to the classroom, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. As I mentioned, I had so much learning. I learned so much in these conferences, and it was all about cancer. So today we're going to continue that process because most people don't even think about disease or they don't think about prevention. But today we're going to talk about how to take these bad habits that we have or habits that aren't good for us and turn them into amazing rituals for our life. And Dr. Bhanote is going to help us through this journey. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Monisha Bhanote is here to do just that. Welcome to the classroom.
Thank you so much, Lily, for having me in the classroom. And I'm really excited to talk to you and to your community and share my decades of knowledge and experience.
Absolutely. When, I love highlighting traditionally trained medical doctors, especially if they've gone to a more integrative, holistic, functional approach. But you have 5 board certifications. So share a little bit about your background and what led you towards this journey of knowledge that led you to integrative medicine.
Absolutely. So I've always been very curious about the human body. And, when I started my medical career early on, the idea was, I would go to medical school, become a doctor, take care of patients, everyone get better, everyone would be happy, and then we just continue on in the world. Well, that quickly changed in my first year out of medical school when I was doing my internal medicine residency and I was on the wards and I was in the clinic and day in, day out, I was seeing, the same chronic diseases, seeing the patients then in the clinic. And what I was taught was, okay, you get the diagnosis right, you give them the medication, they get better. Okay, that's where I was like, but they're not getting better. So I'm seeing them 3 months later, 6 months later, and then something was disconnected there, right? Because for me, I'm like, well, this isn't satisfying to me as a physician. I'm not able to heal them. It was actually quite frustrating.
Mhm.
And I'm sure from the patient perspective, it was like also frustrating because they're like, well, doc, you're telling me what to do, and I'm still the same. And so then I'm like, you know what? there has to be more to it. And that's when I moved from internal medicine and I moved into pathology. And pathology is really the deep dive study of how disease develops in the human body. And I have 3 medical board certifications specifically in pathology, anatomic pathology, which is the pathology of all body tissues. So and this is important for everyone to kind of understand, because if you're getting anything removed from the body, you kind of want to know who, what, where, and what's going to happen, right? So, anatomic pathology is your body tissues. So, if you go in and you get a colonoscopy and the doctor sees something there, they might take a little biopsy of it. Or if you go and you get your mammogram and they found a mass there, or some lesion, and the radiologist will take a biopsy. That gets sent to the anatomic pathologist, somebody like myself, who gets to look at it under the microscope and make a diagnosis. That's anatomic pathology. Then we have clinical pathology. Now, clinical pathology is all your blood tests, right? So anytime you're going to get a blood draw and you're getting your CBC, or you're getting your metabolic panel or your lipid panel, that goes to the clinical laboratory. When you are donating for blood, that goes to blood bank. Blood bank is under clinical pathology, right? So that is another aspect. And then the next aspect, which I'm board certified in, is cytopathology, because it just wasn't enough to just look at the body tissues. I'm like, I need to look at these single cells. And if I can see what's going on the cellular level, and understand what I now call, for layman's terms, angry cells, because most of us are walking around with angry, diseased cells. How is that preventable? How is that reversible? Because there's subtle changes that we're seeing at that microscopic level. And so I studied at Cornell on the Upper East Side and did my cytopathology fellowship. But of course, I did not stop there. I also continued on to do a breast cancer, bone, and soft tissue cancer fellowship at the University of Rochester, and then proceeded to go, after decades and decades of diagnosing these diseases, and cancer obviously being the angriest cell or the angriest disease out of all of them. I was like, wait a minute, all these people's genetics, they're not really abnormal. Now there's something else going on here. And if 95% of these cases are not related to genetics, they're related to lifestyle. I better tell somebody this. And I'm sure there's other people telling other people this, but I felt like it was my duty as a pathologist, because I've literally been diagnosing, hundreds of thousands of cancers over decades, that the genetics were fine on that. Now, keep in mind, there's a difference between genetics that you're born with, genetics that get triggered due to epigenetic factors, and mutations you create over your lifetime. Okay. And that's when it came down to, all right, there's something in our lives that we're doing. And why do some people, get to 90 and they're all these cranky people and they've got no diseases, but they got to 90. And then meanwhile, we've got a 50-year-old who's on her 3rd cancer, right? So what's going on there? And that's where I then moved into a space of really incorporating integrative medicine, which I trained at the Andrew Will Center for Integrative Medicine. It's a 2.5-year long study, very intensive. And I also trained in culinary medicine because, frankly, I'm a foodie. I love food. And I'm like, is it the food? What is it? And that path really led me down to where we stand today, what I do today, how I even take care of my own body. It's been a learning. I mean, I didn't always live the lifestyle I live in the last decade or so, in my 20s, because I didn't know, and even going through med school, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right. So I find it's almost like, we go to school, but we weren't taught how to be adults and take care of our lifestyles. It was like a missing part. We were taught all these things about, like history and this war and that, but we really were missing those practical lifestyle things. And that's where, I spend a lot of time, and my book is really about how does the human body work, right? I want you to understand that from all body systems, um, and how can you take those body systems and optimize them with lifestyle rituals? So
Mhm.
to me, like you started, habits always have had a negative connotation, right? So nobody ever says they have a good habit. It just
Mhm.
doesn't come up, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And so I always view habits in a place of it's something that we do because we have a cue to it. So, you might have a cue that when you walk in the office that somebody's brought in donuts and you're like, oh, well, I got to have that donut now, right? So it's triggered by something.
Mhm.
And where routines are a little bit more intentional, meaning you might be like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to start doing something. That's a routine. Definitely a little bit more intentional, a little bit more self awareness that you need to do something. But rituals for me really are a place of higher self awareness and more intentionality. And they're also more forgiving in a sense that if you don't go to the gym because you weren't feeling good that day, it doesn't like give you an X, it's
Mhm.
like you wake up every day going, what is it my body, what is it my mind, and what is it that my soul needs today to live my best life? And that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, with that in mind, I want to mention that Dr. Benote is giving away one of her books, one book. So it's called The Anatomy of Wellbeing. This is an amazing book, and I want to encourage you to text me at 407-373-5959. That's 407-373-5959, or you can email me at lily@whenyounneedafriend.com. Just know that a week from today, I'm going to pull out I'm going to put all your texts and all your names in a winner's basket. And a week from today, I'm going to draw one name out, and then we'll let you know if you are the winner. So please know that if you would like a copy of this book, The Anatomy of Wellbeing, then please text or email me. You've got the information right behind me. So get started. So I am really excited about what you've said so far, because when you listen to your journey and just piece it together and you say, okay, this is the path that I've taken, when you look back, you see how connected they are. Because yes, we may inherit our DNA from our family, ourselves, from our mother and father, but what expresses it is the way we live. And when I heard, I've interviewed Dr. Bruce Lipton several, like 3 or 4 times in the classroom. And when I heard him say that for the first time, and that was back in 2013. It was the first time I interviewed him. And he said that only, I think at the time he said 3% of our DNA is responsible for disease, but that really the rest of it is lifestyle. That was life-changing for me. I had never heard that before. And because of it, it's led me down a different path. But you went through it so naturally, where you said, okay, this is what I want to do, pathology. Okay, and okay, this is not making sense anymore, so I need more education. And then it even took you to becoming certified in culinary medicine. So it's so beautiful how you embraced your journey and said yes to all these things. And now here you are to teach us, how do we break a bad habit and turn it into a wonderful healing ritual? Because this is the thing, we all know that this habit that we have is not really good for us. There are habits that we have that are wonderful, but we don't think of those as habits, as you said. We don't think of those as habit. We think of those as just the things that we do. People say, I am not ritualistic. I can't do a ritual thing. And I always say, but you already are. We're already obsessing about things. We're already doing all these things automatically anyway. Might as well replace it. What is the process to get started from taking a bad habit? And even if we want to call it just a habit, let's not give it a bad name to it. It's just not blessing our body or our cells. It's like you're saying, one of the things that Dr. Bhanote says is that cellular care is self-care. And I love that. I never heard of it, that expression before, only through you. So when I think of that I want to now embrace a ritual, what are some of the steps that we should take to get started?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, Lily. So let me give you an example first, right? And then
Mhm.
we can kind of talk about the steps. And I say hashtag self care is self care, right? Because everybody is all in this place of talking about self care. I need self care, but really, what we need is we need cell care. We need to be taking care of ourselves. If they take care of us, we can just be disease free. So let me tell you a story about this patient, Ashley. Okay. So I had this one patient, and she had this bad habit of waking up in the morning, and she would get on her computer first thing in the morning, and she would go and have a conversation with Dr. Google. Okay. So every morning, Dr. Google and her would have this conversation, and she'd be typing in, what does this symptom mean? What does this mean? And so much to a place where her anxiety levels around what her feelings were out of control. They became disruptive to her home life, to her relationships. They were just, out of control. And so I had a conversation with her, and I'm like, can we talk about just going, is there something else you can start your day with in the morning instead of Dr. Google, right? Because he's going to be there a couple hours later. Don't worry about him. He'll be there. Is there something else? Tell me about your childhood. Like, what did you enjoy doing? Like, what is it you like to do in your free time when you're not hanging out with Dr. Google? And she told me she loved to walk. And I said, great. You live by the beach. How about we change our practice, even if it is for the first 30 to 45 minutes of the day, and leave your phone at home, don't worry about it. Just go for that walk and, just be in nature. And nature has a very healing presence. I'm like, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to live in a beach town and to be able to walk on the beach, right? So let's be a little bit more intentional. And she was like, oh, well, that's not a bad idea, and I'm like, well, would that, if you did that, would that improve your relationship with your husband? She's like, yeah, probably. Right. So then it became about something else. It didn't become about, oh, I need to figure out my symptoms. It became about, I need to really work on my relationship with my husband. And the only way I'm going to be a better partner is if I can release my anxiety, right?
Mhm.
So now you got to remember something as simple as a walk. I am not asking her to go to a 40-minute
Boot
HIIT
camp.
training class, boot camp, where she's going to hate me. No, we're talking about these things that we can do every day, right? And by doing that, what she was doing was creating new neuronal connections. The beauty of neuroplasticity. When you're able to create new neurons with this healthy practice, let's say, that then your brain recognizes it and goes, oh, this is actually good. And we're not strengthening those negative pathways of anxiety, right? Because our brain by default wants to strengthen those. And if we give into that part of our brain, it will be very, very strong, right? So we have to, whether that's some sort of pattern interruption. I tell people, if there's something that you do, like I have another patient who's like, without thinking, has their dinner, and then always goes to the freezer and takes out the ice cream. And I'm like, are you thinking about it? No. And I'm like, okay, let's pattern
It's a
interrupt.
habit. It's a habit.
It's a
Yeah.
habit, right? So even if we need to put little stickers of Dr. Monisha on the refrigerator to go, all right, let me stop and think. Am I eating this ice cream, one, because I'm bored, two, because I'm hungry, three, because I'm just frustrated with life? is there something else that I could do to create a better chemical reaction in on my body so I don't feel as anxious, I don't feel as depressed? Because we do know that processed foods and sugars and all this kind of stuff that is sitting on the shelves these days
Mhm.
messes with the way we feel emotionally. I mean, it's basically brain poison, and
Mhm.
we become so numb to it that we don't even like recognize it. Like this morning, I was driving back from somewhere, and I was talking to my mom, and my mom's like telling me how her garden's doing. And she's like, "Oh yeah, I gotta send you this picture of this big cabbage because she has this beautiful garden in Pennsylvania." She's like, "I have to send you this picture of this big cabbage I pulled out of the garden, and I made a salad last night with cabbage and kale and had that for dinner." And she's like, "This cabbage is like another like unlike any other cabbage." She's like, "The difference in the food that you get at the store versus
Yeah.
food that actually has nutritious and taste to it
Mhm.
is completely different." And our tastes have been thrown off because we're not eating food anymore, you know? So
Yes.
so these are just some small examples. So really what I want you to think about, what is like one of those small things you're like, you know what, this would be a good thing to do. And I always say path of least resistance. Don't tell me that all of a sudden that you're like, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week. No, because guess what? You're going to fail and then you're going to feel bad.
Mhm.
Right. And if it is, you can take a 10-minute walk 3 days a week, you're already making progress, and then maybe you increase that, right? So that's where it's really about being intentional with our 24 hours in a day, what we're doing with our time, who we're spending our time with. And each time you do these different practices, and you might even have a practice of or a ritual of one Sunday a month, you have a girls brunch, and that's your time for community and connection. And that can create very good hormones like oxytocin in the body, which will increase your life and health span, right? So, thinking about these things, I think we tend to make health more complicated than it is. And we get into these little like, my diet is better than your diet is better than this workout is better than that. And instead, if we can just stay focused on the big picture for a majority of people, that will move the needle in the right direction.
That's wonderful. You said so many things that I wanted to go back to. The when you talk about food and just doing something, not even thinking about it. So mindful eating. So what you're
Mhm.
talking about is mindful eating. Even I remember doing this during a workshop that I did, a virtual workshop, um, that I asked people to go and put some food on their plate and just bring it to it's through our Zoom webinar, whatever that we did, and to close their eyes and just taste it, just taste the food, whether it's spinach or a banana or an orange, just to close your eyes and taste it. It was amazing how many people hadn't really tasted the actual food, and it really brought me to realize that even myself, even though I eat as healthy as I possibly can, I did a water fast with Dr. Michael Clapper. I don't know if you know who Dr. Michael Clapper is. He's an amazing man. So we did a 5-day water fast together. And then I shared it with the classroom for people to do it with me. And I remember thinking, I'm a big foodie too. I love to eat. And I remember going, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but something wanted, I just had to do it. And I remember thinking, I got to eat every 2 hours, but I'm going to trust the process. So I did day one. He talked me through it. He explained, and of course, I did some research on what it would feel like to do it. And I've heard that people that fast don't get hungry. And I prepared myself. I primarily eat whole food plant-based. And so my experience wasn't bad at all. And as a matter of fact, I wasn't hungry at all, at all. And I eat a lot. Every 2 hours, I need to eat something. And I realized that even with me, that we all have a dysfunctional relationship with food. So
Mhm.
how do you get your patients to kind of develop an awareness of their relationship with their food.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, no, I definitely practice mindful eating, and I do teach it. I talk about it in my book. I do it at my retreats. My last retreat, we did a mindful eating. Well, it was more of a mindful drinking because we had fresh coconuts. And not everybody had coconut water from a fresh coconut before. They're used to drinking it out of boxes. And so we did the whole kind of ritual around being mindfully tasting this, being present in the space. And they're like, I never realized how much I love a fresh coconut water. But really, like, part of the teaching for me, I think the factor that clicks with people is it's one thing to say, oh, you need to eat better, right? But then it's another thing to see that your body is aging and failing and your blood work is so completely off the charts that and that can actually be fixed with your lifestyle. So I think that's where it clicks for people, because when I sit down with my patients and I'm reviewing test results with them, I'm not just giving them a result and going, oh, you need to take this drug. In fact, I don't even prescribe drugs, even though I can, right? So what we're doing is I'm going and I'm like, oh, do you realize that your body has a specific requirement of this much for vitamin C rich foods? And that's only because, maybe you've been exposed to more toxins in your life, or maybe you're coming off of chemo and your body just has had toxins, right? Or you've been on medications for a long time. So your body has this requirement. Let's talk about incorporating foods that have vitamin C in it. So let's go through the list and see which of these do you like. Let's start there, right? So it's really more of translating that food can heal your body, and everybody's going to be different, right? Because that's where personalized testing, personalized medicine really comes into play. But at the end of the day, I think everyone can agree we all need to eat more plants, because that's where the disease fighting ingredients are. And when I have a person who's starting with the only plant they really eat is they might have
French
like,
fry.
well, no, some of mine are actually a little bit better than that. They'll have like, their usual is something like, oh, I had some carrots, or I had, an apple, right? And then when I start telling them about like all these other like, foods, they're like, I never even heard of that. What was it? One of my patients said, I think I introduced her to something. I'm like, I didn't even know that existed. Like, I'm in love with it now, right? And it was
Wow.
something so like you see it every day at the grocery store, but you're not picking it up because you didn't grow up eating it. So you don't realize
Was
it's
it
even.
dragon fruit? Because that was one that I looked at all the time and I'm like, that cannot taste good. And one
Oh,
time I
dragon
tried
fruit
it.
is the best.
it-
And I do have a dragon fruit basil seed pudding recipe, which is absolutely amazing, on my website.
Mhm.
But no, it wasn't dragon fruit. It was something really, really, oh, it was a persimmon. Persimmon, right? And so you get a lot of those in Florida when
Like a little, isn't that the star?
no, that's not a star fruit. It's like it looks like a tomato, but it's not. And my
Okay.
mom actually grows it in Pennsylvania. She has a persimmon tree. I have one in my backyard now. It hasn't grown any yet. But
But it
it's
looks
like
like
a
a tomato.
cross between a, gosh, what is it? A cross between, like,
A
not
cherry and a
quite.
tomato?
It's not really a tomato. It's not really a pear. It's its like own thing, but it's really, really good. And you see them everywhere when they're in season. And there's even in Florida, you can go picking, like persimmon picking in
I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
Northeast Florida, or Northwest Florida. But this is what it is like we go down the grocery store aisle with blinders on, because we only know what we know when we're navigating to, whether it's a frozen food aisle, the process, whatever it is, a cereal aisle, we're navigating that to that. And that's kind of how we're living life until we open our eyes up and go. And sometimes, and most of the time, it has to come from a major pain point where the the body's failing somebody and they're like, you know what, I can't even get up and go to work today. I'm just feeling so fatigued. My back, it's unfortunately, most people wait for a pain point when they don't realize all of this is preventable, right? So when we're working to build them back up, we are working at that cellular level because they've spent decades of depleting their cells of the nutrients that they need to work, and that being food. Because they just thought like, oh, I'm eating, I'm getting nutrients. But there's a difference between eating food with nutrients versus just eating.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Okay. So the first ritual is waking up and not going to your computer, actually doing something mindful. That makes sense. I changed that ritual. I was responding to my emails while I was going to the bathroom, and I changed that to doing some prayer, some journaling, and before I start replying to doing work. So what would be another way to start a new ritual? And by the way, for those of you who would like a copy of Dr. Bhanote's book, The Anatomy of Wellbeing, please text me at 407-373-5959 or email me at lily@whenyouneedafriend.com. Please know that a week from today, we will pick the winner from the winner's basket. So make sure you start right away, because it doesn't matter when you send it, your name will be put into the winner's basket and one name will be drawn. So after you wake up in the morning, then what's the next thing that you can do as a ritual to kind of help you embrace prevention of any kind of disease, including
Yeah, absolutely. And I really want people to think about their own rituals. We're just kind of giving some examples here based off of, some patients that I've had that have had success with this. The next category, and I'm kind of going to do this based off of the chapters in my book. So you kind of like, this book is not one of those that you read and you put down and you go, all right, now I know, it's literally a handbook to the way your body works, that you can go pick one section up, master that, and then go, okay, now I'm going to move on to this. It's basically, I wouldn't quite say a medical textbook, but it is, in simple layman's terms, how your body works on a cellular level and why you would want to do something to fix it, right?
Yes, yes. So you're going to go to mindset next?
Yes, transforming your mindset. So that is often a place where I feel people really get stuck, right? Because they go, "Oh, I've always been this way. I can't change. This is just who I am, and my parents had this disease. I'm going to get this disease. This is just the way it is," right? That is what I call in the book a fixed mindset, right? Because most people don't realize that if you can change your mindset and the way you approach your life, you can actually decrease your risk of disease, right? So individuals who have actually shifted to a growth mindset, more than 50% of them can maintain longer term health and well-being, right? So how can we shift to a more growth mindset? That might look like something as simple as writing down 3 things you're grateful for every day. It's that simple, right? Because we don't take time to go, am I grateful for being on this planet? Am I grateful for this meal that I'm having? Am I grateful for the people? Am I grateful for having a job? Like, then, and the thing that people don't realize, when you're doing that, you are changing this circuitry in your body. You're changing the hormones and neurotransmitters and the feel good stuff happening in your body. So that would be the next one with your mindset.
Well,
Right?
I will tell you, probably 35 years ago or 25 years ago, I heard this quote. It was Wayne Dyer who said it, but he said, when he said it, I don't know where I heard it from. So that means that somebody else said it, but he was taking it for his own because he didn't give that person the credit. And it was Max Planck. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. This is one of the quotes that I use in my workshop, the I Am the Solution Natural Health, the I Am the Solution workshop. And when I heard that, I realized, wow, that's pretty powerful. I have the power to change the way I see something. I didn't even think of that. So yeah, to be grateful, how easy it is for us. I just had a conversation with someone this morning that I felt like I was having a conversation with a trucker. I asked how they had just moved and how are things, and everything wrong that they could have told me with words that went along with it. And I started laughing and I said, well, is there anything good that you like? I mean, is there anything good? And yeah, so we were able to shift to that. But mindset is key because we think it, we feel it, we do it. And that is how it all works for us. So with that, how do you help your patients change that mindset and become aware? Because most people don't realize how negative driven, fear driven we are.
Mhm. Yeah, so part of that is, first of all, recognizing it, right? So we have to acknowledge and recognize that there is some thought that we might be having that's reoccurring, and is it even a real, like, is it just actually real? That's the first part, right? Um, and that's where a lot of that fear comes from. Like, I'm like, but you don't even know that. Like, I find often, especially with cancer patients, because I deal with a lot of cancer patients, is that um they go in for their imaging and it's been a week since they got their results. So now their mind is spinning because they're like, oh, the doctor didn't call me, it must be bad. And that is something we are creating in our mind, right? And
Mhm.
when we're creating that energy or negative energy in our mind, we're also creating more stress in our body, and whether we're releasing more stress hormones and that kind of stuff, thereby creating more inflammation. So I always want people to take a pause and go, first of all, is it real? Is it a fact? And if it's not, then just, take a moment there. Replacing those negative thoughts with positive thoughts, whether they're related to that topic or not, is very critical. I think we tend to, and especially as women, we come from a place of always judgment and criticism and stuff like that, and at the end of the day, we're all human and we're just trying to do our best on this planet every single day. So your best is not somebody else's best. So kind of think of it in that way, where you're not in this like comparison trap, because you don't know what's going on with them. You haven't walked in their shoes, they haven't walked in your shoes, right? And then of course, if there is something that is a bigger hurdle that needs to be crossed, I always like to consider it from, a growth mindset knows how to break it down into small, actionable tasks.
Mhm.
I'm probably the queen of task lists. Like, my team knows, like, we've got task lists, and I swear I get a dopamine high when it's like check boxes going off, right?
I hear you. I hear you. I I
um,
don't know how my husband does it, but I have to get things off my checklist, but he can go to bed and have a great night's sleep with like the majority of them not checked off. And it's like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it. I just need to check them off and be able to rest. Like I deserve the rest now because I did all
mhm,
these things.
yeah. And then the last thing was mindset is, if there is a setback, and we all have setbacks in so many different ways, whether that is professional setbacks, health setbacks, relationship setbacks, take that more as an opportunity to learn and grow. And if there's anybody who can say that, like, if something doesn't feel right, goes and learns about it, it would be me. I mean, I don't think I know anybody else who spent 19 years after high school training the mind and understanding how the mind works and the body works, right? So you can always learn. Um, and then somebody will probably say to me, like, oh, you love school. No, I hate school. I absolutely do not like school. I am not a good test taker. Do not put a test in front of me. I don't enjoy it. I barely pass, but what I do like is, I like answers and I like solving problems, and I like going, if somebody needs something from me, I have an answer for them, and instead of going, oh, well, I don't know, go figure it out, right? So
Mhm.
um so in that sense, the career I kind of have is a little bit selfish, because I'm doing this so the person who is my banker, who is my airline pilot, who is my neighbor, all of them are healthier. Because if they're healthier and they're happier, then they're going to make my life easier, right? So think of it like that. So the growth mindset is teachable,
Absolutely.
but it
And
takes time.
yeah, and it's also biblical. In Genesis 50, and at the end, I think it's 50:20, it says, the quote that what man intended for harm, God intends for good. And that's basically the gist of that moment in the scripture verse. And it is so important that we look at everything as a gift, even though it might be an ugly gift with ugly wrapping paper, wrinkles and all. Maybe it's even a newspaper wrapped in it. But if you're open to unwrap it and explore it, it is amazing the things that we will get out of it. Some of the worst things that have ever happened to me have been my greatest blessings, my greatest learning lessons as well. And so now when something's not quite happening, I'm like, oh, what am I going to learn from this? And
Mhm.
it's that shift of mindset that does make a huge difference, because we could be agonizing over something that can't be changed. And it just hurts us at a cellular level, like you focus on. And
Mhm.
so yeah, it's great. And once again, I wanted to share the book. It's the Anatomy of Wellbeing. If you want a copy, a week from today, you'll get your name pulled out. So put your name in the winner's basket by texting me at 407-373-5959. Let me know that you want the Anatomy of Wellbeing, because we do lots of books that we give away from time to time. So I need to know which one is the book that you want, or you can email me at lily@whenyounneedafriend.com. So today, what I want you to know is that in the classroom, what we focus in is 100% ownership for our life. The word responsibility has had a bum rap, and really it's an empowering word to me. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. The word responsibility we think of as fault, shame, duty, and it is not. It is empowerment and freedom. So I want to encourage you to go to whenyounneedafriend.com, start making this change, start making this shift. And I'm so excited that we get to speak to Dr. Monisha Bhanote about this today. And so go to whenyounneedafriend.com. While you're there, please subscribe, like and follow me on all social media. Check out some of the workshops that we've done there as well, so that it will help with a mindset change if that's what you are looking for. It's so important that because it all begins in a thought. Murder starts with a thought, and the creation of an airplane started with a thought. So what do you want that first initial thought to be? You can make a difference there. So I want to encourage you to go to my sponsors page, support them the way that they're supporting the classroom. And then you can go to my shop now. This is my affiliate links. And by the way, not everything there is an affiliate link. Some of those things I just love so much, I want to share them with you. Others, if you do purchase from the website, then you are helping out the classroom, is basically what you're doing. And last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month, or one-time donation of whatever it is, whether it's your time, your talent, your treasure. It all helps out the classroom. Just sharing this video alone with your friends and letting people know about Dr. Bhanote helps us. It helps with the algorithms. So if you put a comment, if you like this, or if you subscribe to the channel, whatever you do will help us beat the algorithms, because this is information that there's a lot of industries that would not want this information, that you have this freedom of choice and making the best choices for you. So please share and share generously in any way that you can. Please let us know what you think about today's class as well. And today we have Dr. Monisha Bhanote, and she is an author and a five-time or am I saying that right? Quintuple, quintuple? What am I saying this?
Quintuple. Quintuple.
Quintuple. Yeah, board certified internal medicine lifestyle doctor, classically trained. And I love honoring classically trained doctors that have gone beyond their classical training to a more integrative approach to health. And so you can go to Dr. Bhanote, that's BHANOTE.com. So you can learn more about Dr. Bhanote. And so share a little bit about what they'll find in your website.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Because we've just touched the surface of this. So I'll definitely have to be back in the classroom because we still have to go into culinary nourishment and movement
Yes.
and, detoxifying the body on that cellular level. But what you'll find on my website is, you know, obviously I have a telehealth clinic. So I have a telehealth medical clinic, and I see patients in Florida, California, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. So if you are a patient interested in working on your cells, I am the person to find. Then I also have, a free cookbook that you can go download. So if you're into eating plants, I have a plant-based gluten-free cookbook. Even if you're not a chef, you're gonna love these recipes, super easy. And there's even a gut-friendly chocolate chip cookie recipe on there, which is a hit because we all need our chocolate chip cookies. We just need them to be gut-friendly. And I also do in-person retreats. So I'm very much a person who likes to have immersive experiences internationally where we're addressing this, getting into this mindset, setting up our space for rituals that are going to help us live a longer, healthier life. So I have my longevity retreat coming up in November 2024, and that's our next one. And you can always sign up to my newsletter. I have a great blog, which is like a super long one, but I promise you, you're getting like, it's like free medical education, but in layman's terms, right? So even if you apply even a little bit of it for the next 365 days, you are going to be a healthier, happier individual.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was looking at your book and noticing all the different um, chapters that you have in the book. And I know that those are the different steps that we can take. You start off with the power of rituals. So let's, we did go to mindset, and the next one is body ecosystem. So do you want to go there, or do you want to go back to the rituals that the power of the ritual and other things that we might be able to look at and say, you know what, instead of doing this, I can do this. Well, that seems simple enough.
Well, let's talk about your body's ecosystem because I think that's then the next foundational step in the book and the understanding, right? Is your body's ecosystem. And what I really mean by that is more than 40% of Americans are clinically obese, right? And 1 in 4 millennials has a chronic disease. That is totally preventable, right? So when we are thinking about this, I do have to bring up my little cell model, right? So I'm always, I do this with my patients, right? We have 37 trillion of these human cells in our body, right? And there's different aspects in here that need to be taken care of. And I know all of you guys got a cell phone in your pocket or you're sitting with a cell phone. Think of your cell phone like your human cell, right? There's a cell membrane or a case around it. That needs to stay healthy, right? Because the cell membrane or your cell phone case is like a protective barrier. And when our iPhone case cracks, what do? We go buy another one. We don't know that that's happening with ourselves, but that's what's happening if we're not taking care of ourselves, right?
Great point. Great point.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then inside here is something else. And in here, it's a nucleus, right? A nucleus is what holds our DNA, holds our genetic material. And that is one of the things that really changes in size in the place of cancer, right? So when I'm looking at cancer cells under the microscope, this nucleus is not small and cute like this, where it has a lot of cytoplasm and then these organelles, mitochondria, Golgi, all that can work. That's not what's happening. This nucleus takes over and it becomes big and it almost takes over the entire cell. So now you have what we call increased nuclear cytoplasmic ratio. You don't need to know that, but that's what happens. And those cells are growing out of control. Now, because that cell there's only so much space, right? it's growing out of control. So what happens? The mitochondria, which produce energy for our body, can't do that anymore because why? There's other stuff going on in the cellular processes. And that's why when people are having diseases, whether it is cancer or other chronic diseases, they are feeling tired all the time because their body can't produce energy,
Mm.
right? So, so I always like to mention cells because we have different cells throughout our body, you know, whether they're thyroid cells, gastric cells, intestinal cells, brain cells, liver cells, all of them have specialized functions. And with those specialized functions, we want to be able to nurture all of them, right? So that's going to come from a lifestyle approach. What you eat, what you drink, how you move your body, how you sleep, how you sweat and detoxify, how you think, your relationships. All of this is for a holistic approach to really restoring our body's ecosystem.
Very good. I mean, it's all connected. You know, cancer isn't something, or disease isn't something that we're just walking down the street and it all of a sudden attacks us and it robs our purse. It is something that it's gradual. It's almost like you don't even know. It's like when you have somebody in your life. I love the analogy of the phone with the hard shell. How many times do we see people without the hard shell and it has all these cracks on the screen? And it's like, how do you even own a phone without the protection?
Mhm.
But we don't think about that with our body.
Yeah.
We care more about our car. We read the owner's manual for our car. We know how to operate our car. We know how to take care of our phones. But ourselves, we don't. We don't even think of it. Why do you think it's gotten to the point where, I mean, we don't even take care of ourselves, let alone ourselves? What would be a great shift for people to say, you know what? I'm better than that cell phone. If something happens to me, who's going to be taking care of my kids? Who's going to take care of our family? Who's going to be able to provide? What could be that mindset? How do you help your patients to start thinking of themselves better than they do of their cell phones?
Yeah. Yeah. I think this really comes down to slowing down and taking a moment to realize that we all have a very short life on this planet, whether we're going to live to 60 or 120, whatever it is, but really making each day count, right, is kind of key because I don't know about you, but there's a lot of things I still want to do in this world that, that's going to take more years to be able to do it. And I don't want to just do it, and I want to feel good doing it. And I want to be able to, I'm a big traveler, which is why I do retreats. I love going to countries and seeing other cultures and trying other foods, right? And think about those things and what is important to you. And because we're living on autopilot,
Mm-hmm.
and that autopilot is you're basically hitting a wall and then you crash and then you're like going, oh well, okay, now I have all this money and that'll fix me, right? And money cannot fix your cells. I'm sorry, it can't. You need to take care of your cells today. All the people in the world that have millions and millions of dollars, they will still succumb to disease, right? And they can't reverse what's happening if they don't take the time to reverse that, right? So, really, you can start today, you can start tomorrow morning, let this sink in. Just start and love yourself enough to take care of yourself.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you can start by texting at 407-373-5959 and make sure that you put the name of the Anatomy of Wellbeing in your text, or if you email me at lily@whenyouneedafriend.com, let me know that you would like this book, and we will put your name in the winner's basket. And a week from today, we are going to draw one name, and hopefully it is your name, that this will be the start of taking care of yourself. We're down to about a minute left in the class. Is there anything that you haven't been able to say at this point that you feel that is important that it be said before we go today?
Yeah, absolutely. I want people to realize that your well-being is non-negotiable,
Mm.
right? Take care of yourself. Take care of yourselves, right? And it's that simple. Everybody is so precious. Every life, every creature on this planet is so precious that I think we all just need to be taking better care of everything around us.
Very well said. Thank you so much. Once again, the book is the Anatomy of Wellbeing. If you don't want to wait for a week, just get your own copy. If you go to the blog and you see all of Dr. Monisha's information there, click on the name of the book and it will take you to get your own copy as well. So thank you so much, Dr. Monisha, for everything that you're doing to bring this awareness that our cells are so precious to us and we need to treat them like a little baby, a newborn baby, each one of them. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Lily, in the
Yes,
classroom.
you're welcome. And for all of you, share this video with your friends. Let people know that maybe start developing some wonderful habits that will become some amazing rituals that will keep you from getting cancer or dis-ease in the future. And so it all begins with you. It all begins with a thought. So think your way to wellness as well. So thank you so much for watching today. Please share this video and put a little emoji or a thumbs up or make a comment. And please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Monisha Bhanote wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Good job. Good job. Thank you so much.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.